You ever notice how easy it is to give your power away? One text, one comment, one look, and suddenly you're not in control anymore. Here's the truth. Nobody can take your power. You hand it over, piece by piece. Every time you let someone else decide how you feel, how you react, how you see yourself. Think about it. Someone cuts you off in traffic. You yell. You stew. You carry it all day. But who really got hurt? Not them. You just gave them your piece for free. Holding your power doesn't mean you never get upset. It means you choose what's worth your energy. It means you stop renting out space in your head to people who don't even deserve the down payment. And when life hits harder, betrayal, rejection, failure, it's tempting to hand over your power completely, to let the hurt own you. But here's the thing, pain is real, yes, but so is choice, your choice, to respond, to grow, to stand tall when everything around you says crumble. Holding your power is not about controlling the world, it's about controlling you, your attitude, your words, your next step. And when you learn to hold your power, people notice. You stop reacting, you start leading, not by force, not by fear, but by presence. So today, hold your power in your conversations, in your relationships, in your struggles. Don't give it away so easily. It's yours, and it's stronger than you think. You don't lose power, you give it away. That's the first truth most people don't realize. Power isn't something someone else can just come along and snatch from you. It isn't fragile. It isn't sitting out in the open, waiting to be taken. It lives in you. The problem is we treat it like loose change. We hand it out without even noticing. We let little moments, little people, little words drain us because we never stop to recognize what we're carrying inside. Think about the last time someone made you mad. Really mad. Maybe they said something in a meeting that felt like a shot at you. Maybe they cut you off in traffic. Maybe they ignored your text and you spent hours overanalyzing it. That moment, that reaction, that was you giving away your power. They didn't reach inside you and take it. You gave it. You handed it over with your anger, with your overthinking, with your frustration. It happens every day. You start your morning feeling good. You've got energy, momentum, focus. Then someone says something sideways and suddenly your whole mood shifts. Instead of owning the day, you're owned by it. That's how power leaks out. Not in big dramatic moments, but in small unnoticed exchanges. You don't lose it all at once. You give it away in pieces. And we justify it. We say, they made me mad. They ruined my day. They stressed me out. But here's the uncomfortable truth. They didn't make you do anything. They did something. You reacted. And that reaction was a choice, whether you realized it or not. That's what giving away your power looks like. It's trading control of your emotions for the illusion of being a victim to circumstances. Now, this doesn't mean you're supposed to be some stone, cold robot who never feels anything. That's not realistic. You're human. You're supposed to feel things. But there's a difference between feeling and surrendering. Anger can flare up. Sadness can wash over you. Frustration can spark. Those are natural. But when you let those feelings dictate your next action, when you let them rule the rest of your day, that's when the handoff happens. That's when you've given someone else the keys to your own state of mind. Notice how kids do this. A sibling says one word, just one, and the other explodes. The sibling smirks because they know exactly what happened. They got the reaction they wanted. Adults aren't that different. Some people thrive on pushing buttons. They test you. They poke. And the second you react, they've got what they wanted. You gave them the upper hand without even realizing it. But here's where it gets deeper. Sometimes it's not even other people. Sometimes it's you. You give your power away to your own thoughts. You replay that mistake from years ago. You rehearse a conversation that hasn't even happened yet. You let doubt and fear talk louder than your confidence. No one else had to do anything. You handed over your piece before you even stepped out of bed. That's how tricky it can be. So why do we do it? It feels easier in the moment. It feels easier to blame the driver who cut you off. It feels easier to blame the boss who criticized your work. It feels easier to blame the friend who didn't show up. Blame feels like release. But all it really does is cement the fact that you've surrendered control. You gave away your power with every excuse. And the longer you do that, the weaker you feel. Not because you've lost anything, but because you've practiced giving it away so much, you start to believe you never had it. That's the trap. That's why people feel helpless. Not because life is stealing from them, but because they've trained themselves to hand over everything that matters most. The moment you recognize that, though, everything shifts. Because if you're the one giving away your power, then you're also the one who can hold it. Holding your power means choosing your response, not reacting. Reacting is automatic.
Yeah.
It's raw, it's impulsive, it's the first thing that comes out when emotions flare. It feels good in the moment because it's fast and loud, but it often leaves damage in its wake. Choosing your response, on the other hand, is deliberate. It's slower. It requires awareness. It asks you to step back, breathe, and decide what outcome you want before you act. That's where real strength lies, not in reacting, but in choosing. When someone criticizes you, your natural instinct is to fire back, defend yourself, prove them wrong. That's a reaction. It feels powerful in the moment because it releases tension, but it actually hands them control. They set the tone, and you followed it. Choosing your response looks different. You hear the words, you process them, and then you decide whether they deserve your energy or not. Sometimes you calmly explain yourself. Sometimes you simply let it go. Either way, you stay in control because you made the choice. Think about arguments. Two people are yelling, each one reacting to the other, voices getting louder, emotions boiling higher. Spirals because nobody is stopping to choose. Each person is just matching energy, escalating without thinking. But put one person in that same situation who decides to pause, lower their tone, and speak with intention. That person holds the power. The whole atmosphere shifts because choice disrupts reaction. It's the same in daily frustrations. Someone cuts in line. The reactive part of you wants to snap, roll your eyes, make a scene. But what's the outcome? You raise your blood pressure. Maybe cause a public argument, and for what? To prove a point to a stranger you'll never see again. Choosing your response doesn't mean you're weak. It means you value your peace more than you value being right in that moment. That's not giving in, that's holding your power. Reactions are usually fueled by ego. They come from that need to defend, to control, to win. But responses come from clarity. A response asks, what's my goal here? Do I want to fix this? Do I want to maintain this relationship? Do I want to walk away with my peace intact? Those questions are the difference between someone who gives their power away and someone who keeps it. In relationships, this is huge. A partner says something hurtful. A reactive response is to throw hurt back at them, to even the score. That escalates conflict. A chosen response is to say, that hurt. Let's talk about it. The second choice takes more courage, but it also keeps your power in your hands. Because now you're not being pulled by emotion, you're guiding the moment. At work, the stakes are even higher. A boss criticizes your work unfairly. Reacting means snapping back or shutting down. Choosing your response means asking for clarity, presenting your side calmly, or even just deciding that their bad day doesn't get to define your worth. One path keeps you small, the other keeps you steady. Choosing your response doesn't mean ignoring your feelings. It means you give yourself a moment to feel them without letting them run the show. Anger can still come. Frustration can still rise. Sadness can still sting. But instead of those emotions controlling your behavior, you acknowledge them, and then decide what to do next. That pause between feeling and action, that's the space where power lives. And here's the truth most people miss: reacting is easy. Choosing is hard. Reacting is immediate gratification. Choosing is long-term strength. Reacting gives the other person control. Choosing keeps it with you. Reacting is handing over your power. Choosing is holding it tighter. The world pushes us to react. Social media, heated conversations, daily stress. But every time you pause, every time you breathe, every time you make a conscious decision about your next move, you're practicing what it really means to hold your power. Pain is real, but choice is stronger. Pain shows up in every life, no exceptions. It comes through loss, betrayal, failure, disappointment, and sometimes through the quiet ache of unmet expectations. Pain can be sharp and immediate, like a sudden heartbreak, or it can be heavy and lingering, like years of regret. It demands attention. It reminds you that you're human. And in the middle of it, it feels impossible to think of anything else. Pain has a way of convincing you it's the only truth in the room. But even in the middle of pain, there is choice. Choice doesn't erase pain. It doesn't pretend it isn't there. Choice acknowledges it, accepts it, and then asks a deeper question: what are you going to do with it? Because you can't always control the hurt, but you can control what happens next. That's where the strength of choice outshines the weight of pain. Take failure as an example. You put in the hours, you gave your best effort, and it still didn't work out. Pain shows up as embarrassment, shame, doubt. The easy road is to stay stuck there, to let the failure define you. But choice steps in and says this isn't the end. You can learn, you can adapt, you can try again. Pain says stop, choice says move. In relationships, pain can be devastating. Someone you trusted breaks that trust. You didn't ask for it, you didn't cause it, but you're left carrying it. That pain is real and valid. But once the shock settles, you face a choice. Do you let that betrayal shape the way you see yourself, the way you see others, the way you move forward? Or do you choose to heal even if it's slow, even if it takes everything in you? The betrayal isn't your choice, but the response is. Grief is another form of pain that feels overwhelming. Losing someone you love can feel like the ground has disappeared beneath you. You can't choose that loss, and you can't make it easier. But you can choose how you carry their memory. You can choose whether the grief keeps you frozen or whether it inspires you to live more fully in their honor. The pain will always be there, but choice gives you a way to live with it instead of being buried under it. Even in everyday frustrations, this truth applies. A harsh word from someone, a project falling apart, a dream delayed, each moment of pain invites a reaction. It's natural to want to lash out, shut down, or give up. But choice interrupts that pattern. Choice gives you space to ask, how do I want to handle this? What outcome matters most? What part of this can I control? That small pause is proof that choice is stronger than pain. Pain wants to convince you it's permanent. It wants you to believe that what you feel now will last forever. But choice challenges that lie. Choice is what lets people rebuild after disaster, forgive after betrayal, stand again after being knocked down. Pain says you're broken. Choice says you're not finished. Pain says you're powerless. Choice says you still decide. And choice doesn't always look like bold, dramatic action. Sometimes it's small. Choosing to get out of bed when you'd rather stay down. Choosing to speak kindly to yourself when your thoughts turn cruel. Choosing to keep moving when standing still feels safer. Those small decisions stack up, and little by little they become stronger than the pain that once felt unbearable. Every person who has ever overcome something hard has done it the same way. Not by denying pain, but by choosing through it. Pain shows up uninvited, but choice is always available. Pain can shout, but choice whispers back with power. Pain is real, but choice is stronger. Control yourself, not the world. Presence is power. Most of the frustration people carry comes from trying to control things they were never meant to. They want to control how others think, how others act, how situations unfold, how life bends to their plan. But the harder you try to control the world, the more powerless you feel, because the world doesn't bend to anyone's will. What you can control is far smaller, but far more powerful. You. Your mindset, your words, your tone, your body language, your choices. That is where true control lies, and that is where presence becomes power. When you walk into a room, you can't control what people say about you, but you can control how you carry yourself. You can control whether your posture speaks confidence or insecurity, whether your words are calm or frantic, whether your energy fills the space or drains it. Presence doesn't come from dominating others, it comes from mastering yourself. People notice when someone is steady, when they aren't thrown by every little thing, when they hold themselves instead of trying to hold everyone else. That steadiness is power. Think about conversations that turn heated. The natural instinct is to try to control the other person, to make them see your point, to force them to agree, to get them to calm down. But the more you push, the more they resist. The only person you can control in that moment is yourself. You can control whether you raise your voice or lower it, whether you match their energy or ground it, whether you listen or interrupt. And the second you choose control over yourself, the conversation changes. That's presence. In leadership, this principle is even clearer. A leader who tries to control every detail, every person, every outcome ends up overwhelmed and resented. But a leader who controls their own behavior, who shows up consistently, communicates clearly, reacts calmly, creates an environment where others want to follow. People don't trust perfection, they trust presence. They trust the person who can walk into chaos and still hold themselves steady. The same is true in personal relationships. You can't control whether someone loves you the way you want. You can't control whether they stay, whether they understand, whether they meet every need. But you can control how you show up. You can control the honesty in your words, the respect in your actions, the boundaries you set when something crosses the line. That's what keeps you grounded even when emotions run high. Presence is not about controlling the other person. It's about controlling the way you bring yourself to the relationship. Even in the smallest daily moments, this truth shows itself. You can't control traffic, but you can control whether you stew in anger or use the time to think, reflect, or listen to something meaningful. You can't control weather, but you can control whether you let rain ruin your mood or you adapt and move through it. You can't control the economy, but you can control the effort you bring, the skills you sharpen, the attitude you hold while navigating uncertainty. The more you release the illusion of controlling the world, the more energy you free up to actually control yourself. And that's where presence comes in. Presence is about being fully here in this moment, not lost in what you wish you could control. It's choosing to breathe before you speak, choosing to notice what's around you instead of being trapped in your head, choosing to respond with intention instead of reflex. People feel that. They can sense when someone is grounded, when they aren't rushing, when they aren't desperate for control. That calm presence commands respect without ever demanding it. Control yourself, not the world. Presence is power. When you stop scattering your energy on things outside of you and start mastering what's inside of you, you stop being pulled in 100 directions. You stop reacting to every storm around you and start becoming the steady point in the storm. That's what people are drawn to, and that's what transforms situations without force. Presence is not about what you control on the outside. It's about who you choose to be on the inside and how consistently you hold that no matter what's happening around you.